Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we cut through all that noise, really dig deep into interesting topics, and pull out the clearest, most actionable insights just for you. Today we're doing something a bit different, a unique deep dive into a really fascinating personal journey. It's the story of a physics PhD who made this pretty remarkable career shift from academia into the super fast-moving world of AI. And our expert guide today is actually here to share their own transition notes, which I think will offer some real practical inspiration for anyone maybe standing at their own career crossroads.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here. And today I really want to take you right back to that initial thought, that moment where I first asked myself, okay, why would someone with a background completely outside engineering, outside computer science, why would I even think about learning AI? It sounds simple, but it was a really pivotal question. And exploring it, well, it reveals a lot about how these big career shifts actually start.
That's a really powerful place to start. Because, physics to AI, that sounds like a significant jump, doesn't it? Before we dive into the AI side of things, you mentioned this long academic path.
Yeah.
Could you maybe paint a picture for us? Life before AI was even on the radar. What was your main research focus? What did that actually involve day to day?
Sure. Yeah, it was a very traditional academic path, really deep in the world of physics. I studied physics right from university all the way through my PhD. And my work, it wasn't just theory on a blackboard. It involved a lot of really intensive simulation work. I mean, I was writing hundreds of thousands of lines of code, actually, to model these complex physical systems.
Wow, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, it was pretty involved. My specific research areas were, kind of niche, I suppose. I was looking into material science, the really weird details of quantum mechanics, simulating how semiconductors behave at a really fundamental level. I even managed to publish several papers during that time. But as my PhD started wrapping up, this really profound feeling, almost like dizziness of being completely lost, started to creep in. It felt like every morning I was just staring into this void, constantly asking myself, okay, what's next? Where do I even go from here? What am I supposed to do? And the big one was, do I really want to keep doing research for another 10 years? It was a very isolating time, really uncertain. The path ahead just felt totally unclear.
That feeling of what now? Gosh, that's so relatable. I think so many people feel that at the end of a long academic track, or really any big chapter in life. Yeah. So, okay, you're facing that uncertainty. What were the actual specific paths you were considering at that point? That crucial crossroads. You must have weighed up a few options.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I remember clearly mapping out three main possibilities. The first one was, the simplest in a way. Just stay in academia. Try for a postdoctoral research position, maybe look for a teaching job somewhere. It was familiar, sure, but I also knew that academic road is incredibly long, super competitive, and honestly, the stability felt really uncertain. It was the known path, maybe, but also a really tough, maybe even precarious one.
Okay, so stay the course, basically. Option one, what was option two?
Option two was to jump into industry. Specifically looking at data analysis roles. That was actually a pretty popular choice for a lot of my peers, people with similar science and engineering backgrounds. It felt like a natural extension of the analytical skills we'd all developed. And it was definitely a growing field back then.
Right. Makes sense. A lot of transferable skills there. And the third path, I'm guessing this is the one that led us here today.
Exactly. Yeah, the third path was the one that caused the most internal wrestling, I guess. That was the idea of moving into AI or machine learning, data science, that whole area. On one hand, it was incredibly attractive because, you can just see it was the future, right? This massive, undeniable trend that was just going to explode. But on the other hand, it brought this huge wave of hesitation because, like I said, I wasn't a computer science major. I had zero formal CS training. And that just felt like this enormous barrier, almost impossible to overcome.
Yeah, that sounds like a real push and pull. This thing pulling you forward, AI, but also pushing back because it seems so technically difficult. That internal tug of war, that must have been pretty intense. So what was it in the end? What was the main driving force, that sort of final pull that made you seriously consider AI, even with all those valid worries? What gave you that final nudge to actually think, okay, I'm going to try this?
It honestly boiled down to one single nagging question I kept asking myself. I asked myself really directly, okay, if I don't try this now, if I don't even just explore this AI path, am I going to regret it 5 years down the line? And the answer, honestly, it was just this immediate, loud, yes, absolutely, very much so.
Yep.
The thought of looking back later and wishing I'd just given it a shot, wishing I hadn't let the fear stop me, that felt way worse than the fear of actually trying and maybe failing. So that potential regret, that feeling, that's really what pushed me over the edge. It made me decide, okay, I have to at least give it a try. It felt like a now or never thing for my own peace of mind, really. I just needed to know.
That no regrets question is so powerful, isn't it? For anyone listening right now who might be feeling stuck, maybe paralyzed by fear at their own crossroads, what's one small thing they could do just to even start asking themselves that question and feel its weight?
That's a good point. Maybe start really small. Just try to visualize yourself 5 years from now, having done nothing different. What does that feel like? Then try to imagine you took just one tiny, maybe scary first step today towards that new thing. What might that future feel like? Sometimes just comparing those two feelings, it really shows you the true cost of doing nothing.
That's a great exercise. Simple, but powerful. But okay, even with that strong motivation, that no regrets drive, before taking such a massive leap, it's totally natural to list out the what ifs, right? The potential problems. What were your, say, top 3 worries or risk points when you were really seriously thinking about this AI transition?
Oh, yeah, there were definitely risks. My biggest worry, number one, absolutely, was that lack of a formal computer science background. I hadn't studied things like data structures and algorithms, the real fundamentals of writing efficient code. And I was seriously worried about being competitive in the job market without that foundation. Like, would I even be able to keep up? Would anyone even look at my resume?
Right. The foundational knowledge gap.
Exactly. Then the second big risk was my lack of professional experience and, frankly, connections in that world. I had no network in tech, no real project experience outside of my academic simulations, and definitely no internships at tech companies. Yeah. I genuinely thought, how on earth can I compete with people who have all that? Who's going to take a chance and give me that first opportunity? It felt like trying to break into a closed club.
The experience and network barrier.
Yeah.
That's a common one. And the third?
And the third risk was just the sheer time and opportunity cost involved. Learning AI properly, it's not something you do in a weekend workshop, right? It could easily take 6 months, a year, maybe even longer to get really proficient. So I was risking investing a huge chunk of time, possibly giving up stable work I could have found elsewhere, with really high stakes if the whole transition just didn't work out. The thought of putting all that effort in and then, failing, that was a very real, very tangible fear.
Those are incredibly real concerns. I think they probably echo what a lot of people feel when they think about a big career change, especially into something that seems so technical like AI. But okay, despite those worries, you clearly saw something else too. Some upsides, maybe some unexpected advantages. What skills or abilities from your physics background did you eventually realize were actually, maybe surprisingly, well-suited for AI?
Yes, exactly. I did start to see those connections, which was honestly a huge relief. One big opportunity was just seeing how incredibly fast AI was developing and noticing that the barrier to entry was actually getting lower, not higher in some ways. There were suddenly so many free online courses popping up, loads of open source communities sharing code and ideas, and these really user-friendly tools emerging almost daily. It started to feel, surprisingly accessible, actually.
Interesting. So the rapid development was actually an opportunity.
Yeah, in a way. And secondly, and this was maybe the most crucial part for me, my physics training, it had given me this really strong foundation in logical thinking and in modeling complex problems. And I realized those thinking processes are actually very similar to how you tackle problems in AI. Breaking down a massive challenge into smaller, more manageable pieces, analyzing data, looking for patterns. Even if the specific tools were different, the way of thinking felt familiar. It wasn't about knowing the code syntax yet. It was about the problem-solving approach.
The underlying thinking skills. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Right. And then I had this kind of aha moment. I realized that AI isn't just about writing super complex algorithms or spending all your time tuning models. It also involves really important stuff like processing data properly, defining the exact problem you're trying to solve in the first place, understanding things from the user's perspective. And even now, things like prompt design for these large language models, that's a whole skill in itself. So that suggested to me, okay, maybe I could find a way in from the application side or the problem definition side. I didn't have to be a hardcore algorithm expert from day one.
That insight that AI is broader than just the deepest technical bits. That seems incredibly empowering, especially for anyone listening who doesn't have that CS background. Could you maybe elaborate just a little, like what aspects beyond pure coding might someone from, say, a humanities background or maybe the arts surprisingly find they excel at in AI?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question. Think about it. Defining a problem clearly, understanding what users actually need, crafting prompts for models like ChatGPT so they give useful answers, interpreting the output, figuring out the real-world impact, even thinking about the ethical implications or designing user interfaces. All of that requires strong communication skills, critical thinking, empathy. Someone from humanities, for instance, is often brilliant at analyzing text, understanding human nuances, spotting biases, synthesizing complex information. Those skills are gold dust for things like natural language processing or designing AI systems that are fair and ethical. It's really about leveraging your unique perspective, your different way of thinking, to shape how AI is used, not just focusing on how it's built under the hood.
That really broadens the horizon, doesn't it? A very powerful way to look at it. Okay, so with that new perspective, you decided, right, I'm doing this. You took the leap. When you actually started learning AI, where did you begin? Did you go straight for the heavy textbooks? Or were there specific fun things, engaging bits that drew you in first?
Definitely not the heavy textbooks first. No way. My initial approach was actually pretty playful. Like I said, I did not start with dense mathematical theory or the core algorithms that felt too intimidating. Instead, I just jumped into the fun tools that were becoming available, things like ChatGPT when it started getting big, and those AI image generators. I literally just started playing with them, seeing what they could do, pushing their limits. I remember spending ages trying to get ChatGPT to write this ridiculous limerick about quantum physics just for laughs. And that's when it clicked. Like, okay, this is actually pretty cool.
Huh, a quantum limerick. Nice.
Yeah. And that sort of playful exploration, it naturally sparked my curiosity. I started wondering, okay, how do these things actually work behind the scenes? And that curiosity, that was the hook. It led me to start searching YouTube for explanations, finding tutorials, and eventually signing up for some more structured online courses. It made the whole learning process feel much less like a chore and much more like, an exciting adventure.
That's such a great way to start, finding the fun first. Still, it's quite a leap, isn't it? From the deep theory of quantum mechanics to, well, the very practical, fast-changing world of neural networks. I imagine, even with that initial fun and enthusiasm, that old friend's self-doubt must have popped up again, that feeling of, oh, I'm too old for this, or I'm learning too slowly. I think pretty much everyone listening can relate to that little voice. How did you really overcome that skepticism about your own abilities, especially coming from physics, not CS? What did you see that genuinely made you believe these skills could be, as you put it, trained out?
Oh, absolutely. The self-doubt was intense. Really intense at times. I clearly remember thinking things like, I can't even write basic Python. I don't know what pandas is, which is this super common tool for data work, and I never heard of a neural network. I genuinely had moments where I feared I was just too old, too slow, completely out of touch. But the real turning point, the thing that shifted my perspective, it came from observing other people, mostly online, in forums and communities. I started seeing stories and examples of people from totally non-typical backgrounds who were successfully moving into AI roles. I mean, people who used to be teachers or social workers, artists, designers. Their stories were like a light bulb going off.
Seeing proof it was possible.
Exactly. Seeing their journeys, it made me realize something incredibly profound, something that became my mantra. Ability is not innate. It can be cultivated. It wasn't that they were geniuses, it was that they'd put in the work. It shifted my whole mindset from this fixed idea of, I can't do this, to a growth mindset of, okay, I just haven't learned how to do this yet. It was like a switch flipped in my head. I saw their success not as some weird exception, but as proof that effort and strategy could actually work.
That's such a powerful realization.
Yeah.
It's about cultivation, not just raw talent you either have or don't.
Yeah.
That's a blueprint, really, for anyone feeling stuck.
Yeah.
Stop asking if you can and start focusing on how you will cultivate that skill. So, okay, armed with this new belief, this growth mindset, how did you actually structure your learning? Did you have an initial plan? Did it change along the way? What kind of time frame did you give yourself? And what was your overall strategy for tackling this huge new field?
Yeah, there was definitely a plan, although, like you said, it definitely evolved as I went along. I set myself a pretty clear initial goal, 6 months. 6 months of dedicated learning. My strategy was basically this. Start with the stuff I could understand, build confidence there, get a solid footing. Then, from that base, gradually start tackling the things I didn't understand. Push the boundaries bit by bit. I deliberately decided not to aim for speed. My focus was on stability, on accumulating knowledge logically. I wanted to build a really solid foundation, brick by brick, rather than rushing and having it all collapse. And a really key part of it was I started meticulously writing learning notes for everything, summarizing concepts in my own words. And crucially, I started trying out small projects almost right away to actually apply what I was learning. That active application, that made all the difference.
Smart move. Getting hands-on, that's absolutely key, isn't it, to make the knowledge stick. So what were some of those very first small projects you tried, the ones that gave you that tangible feeling of, hey, I'm actually doing something with AI now?
Yeah. Those early wins were so important for motivation. My very first projects were pretty basic in hindsight, but they felt huge at the time. Like, I managed to write a simple script to crawl a website for specific data, basically teaching the computer to automatically pull information off a web page. That felt like actual magic when it first worked. Then I moved on to analyzing some simple data sets. Nothing massive, just looking for patterns, trying to find little insights in the numbers, using tools like pandas. These weren't, building sophisticated AI models or anything, but they were concrete applications of the skills I was learning. Seeing the code actually do something useful, however small, which is incredibly motivating. It really built my confidence step by step. And maybe it sounds silly, but even back then, I had this little fantasy in the back of my mind that maybe one day I could actually teach this stuff to others. That little thought also helped keep me going on the tough days.
That's fantastic. From that initial lost feeling to practical application and even having that vision of helping others, you've really walked the path. So thinking about that journey, if you could offer just one crucial piece of advice, one powerful sentence for someone listening right now who's maybe observing AI from the sidelines, feeling doubtful, maybe feeling a bit lost about making a transition into AI or really any new daunting field, what would that sentence be?
The core message, the thing I had to keep telling myself over and over is this. It's not that you're not good enough, it's that you haven't started yet. It is just so incredibly easy to feel inadequate when you're looking at something new and complex, especially a field like AI that seems to move at lightning speed. And you know what? It's perfectly okay if other people don't really understand your choice or your path. You don't need their approval. What's most important is that you respect yourself and respect your decision to try something new. The world of AI, yeah, it's vast, but honestly, it's not as distant or as inaccessible as it might seem from the outside. You really can approach it step by step, find your own way in, and cultivate those abilities over time. And actually, next time I want to share something really practical based on that. I'll be sharing a kind of guide on how non-computer science majors can plan their learning roadmap for AI. We'll talk about, what specific topics are good to learn, how to choose courses that actually work for you, and maybe most importantly, how to schedule your progress realistically. The goal is to give you a map so you don't have to feel like you're just wandering aimlessly anymore.
That sounds incredibly helpful. A perfect follow-up for anyone who's feeling inspired by today's deep dive. Thank you so much for walking us through that, for sharing such an honest and inspiring transition story. We really hope it sparks some valuable insights for you, the listener, and maybe giving you a little nudge forward on whatever journey you're on. Remember to subscribe to the deep dive so you don't miss that next practical guide, and all our future explorations will be back soon. And just to leave you with something to think about, if you're standing at your own crossroads right now and maybe facing a new path that feels exciting but also kind of daunting, what is the one question that, if you don't ask yourself now, you might really regret not asking 5 years down the road?